Hello. Well, today I have a little bit of time constraint as well. I was trying to get this up and going a little bit earlier, but seems like I did not get a chance to. But I suppose that better late than never, and even if it's for a little bit of time, I'm not sure if there's anyone around at this time, and that's one of the reasons why I am. I started to host the a live stream where anyone can participate because usually when I'm around, there doesn't seem to be anyone doing a live stream. So, and well, I don't have a set schedule yet, so it's not like I can um, put the notice more than I'd like to put the notice, I guess, about a day in advance. But, anyways, I'm still trying to work it out and trying to figure out how this software works when it comes to hosting. So it's been an interesting week for me, and as far as I can see, for the TLC as well. Went on an outing with the family, extended family as well. That was quite awesome, and got to have some some nice, meaningful conversations. It was a total of three couples, including our kids, so it was quite the experience. Um, there's a few things that I've heard from the streams this week, and while there was a lot to talk about or to go back and forth as far as what might be your take, because I do understand that everybody kind of gravitates to different ideas or different notions depending on who you are and your current on where you are when it comes to the epoch of your walk. Because I know that life is a roller coaster. There's a lot of ups and downs, and so when it comes to perspective and propositions out there from the videos that I saw. Um, well, there's one notion, I guess, where I can start to um, say is the whole concept of simulacra. And when it comes to certain philosophies that we might think is the actual philosophy from the philosopher himself, and the takeaway from, or at least what I understood, is that sometimes that's what you think you're hearing, and that's what you hear, and so that's what you uptake, that's what you understand, that's what you perceive to be the real philosophy. And when someone does encounter the concept or the philosophy, and you share kind of what you know, and you are now sharing what you learned. But how? So this is what I heard, that it's a copy of a copy of a copy. And by that I mean is not that what you heard was the philosophy from the book that the philosopher wrote. No, it's the professor that is reading or distilling the information from another professor that wrote a book on the philosopher. So now he or she is teaching or expressing the ideas of a book from a book. And you think that this is what the original author said, but actually it's been changed because of their own, the professor's intuitions, whatever they thought was profound, what they omitted is also important. And there might even be some changes to the philosophy, which you would think would be, well, how would you know, right? How would you know if you haven't actually read the original book? So you hear a philosopher giving a, a teaching an episode, a tidbit, or even a whole class based on a philosopher's book or notions, and it's actually from a professor that wrote about the philosopher. And how many times, and what if you read a book from the guy that wrote from the book that he read from the philosopher. So it's like a copy that's been changed, and then another person says, "Oh, that's kind of cool," and then they write a book reflecting on the book they wrote, and then somebody else comes around, likes it, and writes a book on the book, and this is already 3, 4 times removed, and it's the whole simulacra that it's a copy of a copy, and well, unless you actually have a yearning to go back to the source, to the original philosopher, how would you know if what someone's telling you is actually the real deal? And even if there are somebody, so even if it is somebody that is actually um, given a notion, do you really know if they have omitted an important portion? Because that's what I like to, anyways, that's something that I've learned is biases come in different shapes and sizes, and some are easier to discern than others. And however, there is a however, if you're not familiar with the original material, the original person, the original philosophy, um, how would you know if what someone is telling you is on cue, on par, the exact same, etc., etc.? But anyways, I thought that was kind of um, refreshing to hear from academia about the academic world and to be aware because sometimes you might be getting simulacra. Um, Copy of a copy of a copy from the original. That's a distortion of the original idea, which goes back to the conversation, which I do want to emphasize. What I've learned and what I've come to enjoy from TLC is that the fact that what most people, especially the people that are trying to host these live conversations, is that they don't want to do the tribal fence fighting, where it's more like a argumentative debate, and I'm gonna convert you to my camp. That it's not so, and I don't want to do that either. So it's definitely non-tribal, and questions are allowed. Questions are welcome because how do we know anything unless we look just a little bit deeper, probe a little bit more, and pan out the view so you can get a broader view. And after all, iron sharpens iron, but not to be argumentative, contradictory, or tribal. Uh, and when it comes to mm, economies of scale, so there's something in the TLC that I've heard many times share as far as um, the relational versus the ideological, and the importance of the story. And when it comes to story, so and the art, and that's something that some people say that that's what we're losing. We're losing as far as some people are losing the grasp on the importance of art, artistic life, and also the classic tales of old. Because if you rewind the clock a few thousand years, all those myths and legends were actually trying to teach a sense of um, been there, done that. And by the way, warning here, warning there. So it's like takeaways that were tried and true throughout the centuries. And so when it comes to fictional writing, every author has to, well, in my opinion, almost every author comes to the notion of what kind of world they want to build. And in that world, I guess you have to also determine who are these characters? What values do they hold? And obviously, you cannot have duplicates, right? Every character that's going to play a part that's pivotal pivotal, is going to be significant and different from one another. Because if not, you have a boring tale. You want a tale that's interesting and engaging and relatable, so it's got to be realistic. So it's gotta. So there's. So there it is. Mm, if it's gonna be crafty and endure the time of criticism, it's got to resonate. But what values, if these characters are different, what values are they going to have, right? And what, so these characters are going to have values, and the world itself too. What is the struggle? So how are they going to struggle? Because again, if they don't struggle, if there's no tension, you don't have an interesting story. So again, the true, the beautiful, and what's the other one? But anyways, so when it comes to science fiction writing, um, the artist begins to go on a quest to find their voice and to find these. Every novel has these characters that are, at least the good novels that just stay with you, and because the question is, why do they resonate so much? Because they're true, right? They speak to you. There's a sense of reality, and I'm going to go further than to say even the science fiction, the fantasy tales still have relatable characters or the relatable struggle or something that like, yeah, that sounds about right. So, what economy does this world have? What struggle does this fictional world has? What characters remember, and if they're going to gravitate, if they're going to be profound, and they're going to be different, how are they going to come to life? And you know, if you have to ask the question, what makes this awesome book different from this other awesome book, from this awesome author to this other awesome author? And so, um, and I think that's because I know that in the corner, Luke is always saying something about the thing behind the thing behind the thing, and it's all about forget the ideas. It's all about the person, etc., etc. And as I'm beginning to reflect on what they actually say, because I'm trying to go on this journey where I actually um, do active listening, and easier said than done because we are. They say that when we're infants, we are selfish, because that's all we know, right? Our world is small, and when you don't even know how to talk, the only way you um, make your needs known is to cry, and you try to get anyone's attention by crying, and so anyways, the terrible twos, there's a reason why they are called the terrible twos, is because those toddlers are really egotistical. And so the saying is in psychology babble that eventually most of us, some of us, grow out of that terrible twos and become less immature, less selfish, and begin to acquire a bigger sense of what the world is. Newsflash, a lot of people out there. So I'm not the only one, right? The sun does not revolve around my sense of, you know what I mean? So, anyways, so the whole concept of the story, of the other, of the person, of understanding, and hmm, there's a lot of us, hmm, millions, billions. Oh, and different countries. So everybody has a different experience and different set of values and what's important. But there also has to be something that we think is relatable, right? After all, we're all people. We're all human beings. We experience, the same thing. Hunger, desires, wants, etc. And yearnings, you know. And so that's why the stories, and when it comes to stories, I am bilingual, so I do understand that a big blockbuster story or movie gets translated into many different languages. And why would that be? Because it doesn't matter what language you speak, a story is powerful, and that's what they want to translate it. Because you want be like, ooh, I want access to that story, and you want it in your own language, etc. And so, huh, there's also been conversations about the hierarchies. Jordan Peterson, I mean, he definitely wanted to make sure that we understood, you know, his perspective, that there's a need. The hierarchies are by default. You can't. There's no getting away from it. Um, and well, since I am talking to, there's no back and forth, so I will give my own personal example as far as, hmm, is there really hierarchies? Are you sure about that? Or is it man-made? Well, let's do a little thought experiment. Let's say you go on a cruise ship because we're gonna venture out to the unknown, and you know you're on a vacation, so you know you want to go on this cruise ship, so it's not like something bad. However, since we're gonna go into a um, imagination imaginational territory, thought experiment, you get, yeah, you know it, you get stranded, something happens, and you end up in the island, and you survive. Good thing. But now you got to well, figure out how you're going to survive long enough to be rescued. Well, I know. So I'm going to make the long story short. Water secured? Cool. Nice. Oh, yeah, you got to eat. Okay. Food secured. Nice. Hey, at least it's in this imaginary island. At least there's enough fruit. Maybe there's a banana tree, mango tree. You know, the weather can't be too drastic, right? But you still need a place to sleep. So you need shelter. You got all the time in the world, I suppose. Is there predators? Probably. If there's food, there's probably going to be some kind of wildlife, I'm assuming. Then you got to find a way to be seen by the outside world. Because I mean, how long can you live off mangoes and bananas, right? Or maybe there's a fish. Maybe you can figure out a way to cut some. You can improvise, right? You begin to remember, all those books, how can it become useful now in a practical way? All those movies I saw, all those conversations, practical. Now you got to make some kind of tools to survive in this uh, island that you're standing on. But let's say for practical sake, because remember, do hierarchies, is it a thing? Do they come naturally, or do we invent? Or are they fictional? Are they because they, you know? Anyways, let's say that as you begin to walk, because you're trying to make some well habitat, and you're trying to get supplies to survive, and you also want to be seen because maybe there'll be another cruise ship, or maybe the word will be out that this cruise crashed, and so there's going to be a rescue party. And as you begin to venture, you see other people that survive. You're like, cool. Hey, at least I don't have to talk to myself forever. Then you begin to chit chat. They're like, hey, I water, there's some food. I'm beginning to make some shelter. And the first, believe it or not, you're probably, I mean, how realistic is this? What good are you at? Do you have some skills to help with making some shelter, tools for surviving out in the wild, and such as fishing, and also to find a way to communicate with the outside world with the little things that we have on this stranded island. And as you're finding out what this person is good at, you begin to hear some noise that seem to come from people. You're like, hey, you guessed it. Might there be other people around? And as you discover, long story short, let's say they are about, um, there's a link, by the way, in case anybody wants to join. Um, is it the link? I think it is. Um, Feel free to join the conversation. So as you begin to find other people, um, and everybody begins to find out what they're good at. Some people might be good at making some knots, and you can see why making good, durable knots come in handy. Maybe that same person that knows how to make knots knows how to weave things into existence. Maybe they make a hammock or something of that sort, or maybe something to hold water more longer, right? So it's like useful things. So you get where I'm going, right? The more um, the more skills that you have that pertain to survival or to things that are really important in that predicament, like creating shelter and better shelter, better, right? Um, Hunting, and let's say that this is what since it's an imaginary test. Let's say that injury is going to happen, and because you don't have antibiotics, because remember, you're stranded, you don't have the luxury of antibiotics. And let's say that you have four people now that you've found to survive the wreck, and three are very good at hunting, creating shelter, um, problem solving, even hypotheticals, um, because you find out that there are some natural predators that might just take out the tribe, which is a small tribe, right? As of now. But let's say there's one that is not. They're like, well, sorry, I slept through survival. I didn't follow bear or any survival. I wasn't a survival junkie. I didn't have a bug out bag, etc. You fill in the blank. And they are good at just making microwavable food. They never had to troubleshoot anything. They've had it fairly easy their whole life. They're like, I can't really contribute much, and to be honest, I can barely ambulate. So I'm not really good at gathering food or whatnot. So hypothetically, if the injury that's going to cause infection and no antibiotics, and if someone's going to perish, if you had to, be like, well, who might it be? Your hopes are hopefully not that very productive person, because man, what calamity would that be, right? You'd be like, if we were, very, if you contribute luck, if we were going to be lucky, the person that would get injured by this predator would be the person that's not productive, and so our survivals will not really be hit that hard, right? So technically, you see what I mean? Is like hierarchies exist because they do, because we have to survive in this chaotic world where predators actually do exist, right? So I said it before in one of the live streams. Uh, it's good to practice reality testing and to make sure that you give due where due is due, credit where it's due. So if there is, let's say you're out camping and you hear what appears to be noise from a rattlesnake, give the rattlesnake its due, right? It probably has poison in its fangs. Give it its distance. It wants its distance. It's warning you. Um, don't go pet the snake, right? So predators are real, and yes, there's over 100 countries. Um, History goes back thousands of years. So yes, there's also the tribal thing where uh, resources, uh, people have desires and needs, like hungry. I'm hungry. I am thirsty. I have needs. I want to make babies, or else the tribe perishes. Right? How many generations without babies, and before there was no more tribe, no more people. So we've been around for thousands of years. So yes, that's a natural. Some people say, "Oh, it's a whatever." We have a lot of things to worry about. Ergo, the meaning crisis. Um, so hierarchies, I think they're legit. I think you can't do away with hierarchies. And if they want to flatten it out, it's like, something tells me that there's some going to be some wealthy people at the end of the day and some powerful people at the end of the day. And it isn't going to be us. It's going to be whoever wants to pitch these ideas, whatever economic, et cetera, political, whatever. But I don't want to get into that because I don't want to have that tribal ordeal, blah, blah. But all to say is hierarchies, yeah, I think they're naturalistic because such is the state of the world, because somebody out there said or read or encountered the notion that Adam fell in the garden. The garden was easy enough. We've been evicted. Now it's by the by the sweat of your forehead. And then if that wasn't bad enough, then Cain now it's going to be even worse for you. And so the notion is, but anyways, either way, no matter how you want to split it, uh, yeah, survival. You gotta survive, navigate the waters, meaning crisis. Um, if somebody wants to tell you that things are for free, um, I wonder what kind of Kool-Aid they've been drinking, because, yeah, if they think that's the notion, have them travel a few countries where they don't know the language and see just how free things are. Yeah, I think that's a fool's errand as far as things are free. Oh yeah, everybody's should be equal and there's no hierarchies. My opinion, but anyways, just my opinion. If you don't like that, that's fine. You don't have to believe what I believe. You have a different notion. That's okay as well. Um, I know that there's many culture critics, but anyways, in many perspectives, I know the mural is far and wide, and everybody sees just whatever's here, and the periphery is kind of, well, we don't quite see the periphery, and I know that we do have some blind spots, but there is a notion about universal institutions as far as there must be some things, at least some universal things, ideas, notions that we agree on. We have to start from somewhere. There is no such thing as a view from nowhere. That's why TLC is the best place to be, because there's a there. No such thing as a view from nowhere, if you know what I mean. Beware of the Inquisition that was in the past. Hopefully, it stays in the past. Yeah, we've had censorships. Yeah, we've had cancellations. Yep, we had. Well, some people say the freedom of speech is something that we don't want to lose. We don't want that to be. It's it's a real thing, and we want to keep it. Freedom of ideas, freedom of conversation, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to not have your door kicked in for no reason, etc., etc., etc. the simulacra, the copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a notion. And is that the real, is that the real truth, or is that just somebody we heard from somebody that heard it from somebody else, and we are, anyways, let's calibrate, let's just let's do some reality testing, not some fence fighting or tribalistic warfare in the notion, in the idealistic sense. Um, let's have some humility practice in epistemology, um, where we can have conversation and ping pong ideas back and forth that are somewhat universal, that we can at least agree on. And if you want to parse it out, ask a few more, why so? Why that? Can you clarify? That's okay too. Um, I know that there's some displacement, exposure, and some protests. And again, some people think that the United States was founded by Christian ideals, by Protestants mainly. So there's a thing about giving pushback to bad ideas. True, as long as we keep it friendly and reasonable and not argumentative for argument's sake. Um, Remember, the symptom is not the cause. The symptom is not the cause. You have to understand the real problem, and it's hard to fix something that you cannot understand. And yes, the destination does matter, should matter. Values should matter. And if they do matter, then there's the quality, quality of values. What values, right? And who says this one is better than the other one? Well, forget about this tribe or that tribe. I'll make it personal. I know, say if it's not practical, well, maybe it gets sent to the back burner. If it's useful and it helps me with the everyday journey, hey, I will probably lend an ear to that. If it helps me, if it improves my relationships in my to do when it comes to my family and how we function in a more productive sense, um, at work. But if it's destructive in nature, I'm going to say, goes in the back burner. Maybe we can hash that out, but in the back burner. Um, uh, I do believe that there are some people that are idealistic keeper of the sacred, um, and I don't believe that they all live in monasteries. I know that the pilgrimage and people that go into they'll go visit a monastery, and monasteries go back for hundreds and hundreds, if easily more than 1,000 years. So I get the notion. I get why they're some people want to pursue the sacred, but when a regular person goes into pilgrimage to those monasteries, they see certain ideas that go back a while, and I do believe that there are some sacred um, keepers of the sacred notions, truths um, out there in our everyday. And when I do find them, I think they're really cool people to have conversations with. And I think it's well worth to have that conversation with the kind of folk. Um, there's also that I want to say, since I will have a hard stop, by the way, at right before 5. I like to keep these at least to where so more than an hour in case somebody wants to join the conversation. But I know I didn't send the message ahead of time, to those that want to participate in the conversation. But um, I do want to host these in the future where I do give advance notice, and I can run these longer, but I do have to be somewhere at 5. I am considering doing that thing or picking that person up. I already give them a heads up. I might be a little bit late, as, as long as I can, but I will have a hard stop at 5 or maybe right before in case nobody wants to join. But, anyways, um, there is something that I want to say as far as reality testing and as far as calibrating our knobs and the 4 tolerances. If you're unaware of what that might be, in case you didn't partake of that live stream, if I know and try to improve my frustration tolerance, it would be good. My feedback tolerance would be good. My temptation tolerance would be good, and my introspection / reflection tolerance, that would be good. But when it comes to improving my walk, my interaction with others, and my responsibilities as a father, as a husband, as a co-worker, when it comes to beware of my emotions versus epistemology. So, what do I mean by that? I have to be aware of my emotions because they're powerful. They can ruin my day if they control me instead of me controlling my emotions. But it is easier said than done to be able to control, say, anger, sadness, anxiety, fill in the blank. And as if that wasn't bad enough, there's the emotion of the person standing right in front of you. And sometimes, well, life is like a box of chocolate, right? And you don't know exactly how much control of the person, the person is in front of you. You don't know exactly their experience, or maybe you do know them. You know how this is gonna. I've seen that movie before. I see some patterns. I can see the patterns. You know how it's gonna play out. But there's not only your emotions, but there's the emotions of other people. And yeah, be aware of the emotional realm. Um, I believe C.S. Lewis mentioned that there's more than one intelligence. Besides, we all know about the IQ, intelligence, intelligence, informational intelligence, but there's also the emotional realm, emotional intelligence. But as far as not only about being aware, but being able to control it, and then there's emotions in the world of the other and how that plays out and how to do the dance. Because remember, in the real world, this DJ is just sometimes unpredictable, and they change songs like without a cue and the pattern and the rhythm and the genre, and you have to do the dance. And sometimes the other steps on your toes, and sometimes you step on their toes. But sometimes when both are good dancers, you just flow, and it's awesome. But that is easier said than done. Sometimes the music is just awesome. Sometimes you got 2 left feet. Sometimes. Um, but the epistemology, as far as reality testing and how realistic things and how productive they are, um, and that's why there's the whole thing that Jesus mentioned as far as becoming a disciple, and to as far as disciple one another, you know, fellowship, the mentorship. I think that's something to ponder on, to reflect on. Um, by trade, I do get some special training that I would have never have learned, or even wanting to learn, or didn't even know that such training exists, because because well, work thinks it's prudent and it's actually required. Um, just like my former, well, before I went into that department, I used to work in another department where they required specialized training, um, warning medical jargon. So they required ACLS, which means it's a um, life-saving procedures that require advanced training, and it's where you have to give medications and do certain types of protocols, algorithms that requires to be in a team or response, and you have to keep your skills up to date, meaning you have to do and you have to prove it. And if you do not, you cannot work in that department anymore. They put you on timeout and go send you somewhere else. So anyways, ACLS is a part of training that requires to do the thing in certain departments in behavioral health, especially in a lockdown unit. You need different types of skills, and they're required. So, anyways, we are getting close. No, I think I got a few more. But anyways, there's something to be said as far as reality testing. And if you're going to be testing reality, what is that like? And if you're going to be doing the dance with unpredictable and dangerous environments, what must you know? Well, right? But anyways, oh, by the way, as a throwaway line, burnout is real. It is real. So, when it comes to reality testing, if you're getting close to burnout, please take a vacation. Do what you need to do to get refreshed. Fill up your batteries if you're low on battery. Whatever it is that burnout is a real thing. Um, what else can I say since there's no one to do the ping pong conversation with? Oh yeah, so when it comes to there's a thing that I heard on PBK's live stream as far as trust, and as far as it being the most moral, like in the moral economy, the highest value is trust. And what happens in a society, in a tribe, in a family, in a work setting, fill in the blank. What happens when that entity loses trust? What happens when, right? If you, let's do an experiment. If you're a fictional writer and you're going to write characters and there's going to be a lot of tension, and these characters are, maybe it's the follow up. So maybe the readers are familiar with these awesome characters. And, well, right? If they're a group, there has to be some kind of trust. And if you're really going to if you're really going to bring in tensions, probably there's a few things that you can mess with to bring that tension. One of those that's the ultimate, because you can mess with health and um, financial. And then there's the other, like the villain. But within the group, there's also the trust or the perceived trust, because maybe you don't want to kill off a character. You're like, you want them to survive and you want them to stay as a group. So maybe you want to seem like something is shady, but maybe it's just a misunderstanding. So at the end, before the book is done, maybe the trust is intact, because no, it wasn't a betrayal, etc. But trust is something that it's important. So if we're going to do the cultural critique, and if we're going to travel to different nations where the culture is different because you're gonna do, let's go into the imaginary, some um, research because you're gonna write the new novel, but you just want another character, and you want it to be relatable, but you want it to be different than your character. So you're like, I want to experience the other, so let me go travel to be a cultural critic, right? This new character, is it going to be an in part of, are they going to be a part of the in group or the out group? Uh-oh, the other. Oh, uh-oh. Yeah, I know, the other. There's always the other, right? Should there be another? Or no? Maybe we live in a bubble. Maybe there is no other. Maybe it's all made up. Maybe we need to calibrate our reality testing. Testing, one, two, three. Let's hone in those dials. Hmm. Well, here, when it comes to trust, let's throw this for S and giggles. And trust. Is there a hierarchy? Are things for free? Does trust really matter? Well, thought experiment. If one of your characters is introduced to the other, and the other is of a different culture because you want to spice it up and you want to be relatable, so you're like, I'm going to study another culture. And full disclosure, I've been the other. I'm still the other. No matter where I go, I'm still the other, just because I understand how the world works. I do speak diferentes lenguajes, so I know about the other. And even if I'm over there, I'm still the other because I know English, so I'm still the other. Oh, hablo español, so I'm still the other. So I understand a little bit about the other. So in the other country, tribe, culture, family, you name it, company, department, you name it, whenever it comes to the other, there's always a little bit of suspicion about the new guy, right? The newbie. And let's go back into the imaginary. You're going to make a new character and you're considering, should it be the in group or the other? Is it going to be a friend or is it going to be a villain? But we need tension because we want it to be entertaining. We cannot have the boring. No, no, no boring here. Come on. So, but let's go to the imaginary. Well, this person is not going to be trusting. You're like saying, wait a minute, it's a cliche. Don't go to a cliche. Let me ask you, will you trust a drug addict with your wallet, with your house? You're going to go on that imaginary cruise ship, and who's going to watch over your house? That newbie that's from a different place, that's drug addicted, in the imaginary. Remember, imaginary tale. Hello, this is not. Remember, we live in a bubble. Everybody's perfect. So in the imaginary, the other person is a drug addict. Can you trust the drug addict with your wallet? I know there's a lot of gray. And a lot of good stuff lives in the gray. I know. There's always the exception, I know. But the exception proves the rule. The exception does not become the rule unless it's a dystopian novel. Right. Should we write a dystopian novel? That is a good question. Should it be a realistic dystopian novel? What would be a realistic, maybe where the characters are legit and you can relate, unless you want a sucker that's, anyways. But I feel like I'm starting to sound a little antagonistic, so maybe I'll dial it down a notch. The knob, let me go back to easy notions. something that's chewable, something not too far out there, close to the boundaries, getting close to the edge. Don't want to ruffle feathers. Um, I understand there's a lot of cultural critics, a lot of people critics, um, people that say everybody's perfect and only if. But here in the real world of our imaginary tale that we're going to create, imaginary, we're going to, it's a real, it's, this is an experiment where we're going to pitch ideas because we're going to create a novel that's science fiction and maybe fantasy. So this is all creative juices, creative writing, creative conversational, because it's not going to be tribal. It's not going to be, well, yeah, bring your ideas, but in a kind, productive way, not antagonizing, where we can keep it back and forth. So I'll tone it down into a hypothetical thought experiment. Oh yeah, by the way, don't pet the snake, especially if it's a rattlesnake. Give it, get yourself some distance. And if there's some things that are uh, dangerous, like bacteria, and it's in your food, well, it'd be nice if we learn to cook it well. If it's in the water, it'd be nice if we can filter it out. I do want to drink drinkable water, not polluted water, not salmonella infested food. I want it not do me wrong. Antibiotics are great, even though I can't see the bacteria. It's an invisible. Remember, this is part of the imaginary. Even though it's invisible, it's still out there. It's dangerous. Antibiotics, as a thought experiment, are good, and sometimes if it's not polluted, it's also good. I gotta be able to drink the water. I cannot survive long without real, drinkable, filtered, even nice tasting. Why not? It's our story, imaginary, fictional that we're creating. Um, yeah, I'm starting to get hungry. We cannot live by bread alone. So bring your ideas. Well, thank you for going along on this journey in the TLC estuary style. One of these days, I will give you guys enough notice to where we can do the dance with some nice music that you will bring. Hopefully, we don't step on each other's toes and we enjoy that. Wada, wada, oh yeah, wada, wada. Do the dance. All right. Well, um, not sure what I'm gonna name this. This. Um, let's see. What to name this type of back and forth. Um, I was thinking of conversational lounge. Sorry, conversational lounge. Uh, Reciprocal conversational lounge. You've been invited. I will give you enough heads up on the invitation for next time, and hopefully you don't become a stranger. Hopefully you break the fourth wall. Hopefully you're able to participate. Hey, maybe you just enjoy my silly ideas, my as I'm working things out, as I'm calibrating some notions, um, as I try to give you something to think about, something to talk about, and maybe something to talk to me about. But maybe in the future, let's see if I can. Do I have my outro? Um, Hopefully, I do have an outro. Until next time, I'm Alex Luna. So the handle, my original handle is De Sol a Sol. Most people don't know what that means, but it's okay. It's Spanish, but anyways, RCL might be, I don't know, maybe, I don't know yet. Well, let's see if I can. Uh, Hopefully, my outro works. Until next time, be nice to one another.